Princess Velthira of the Corvani Empire stood alone in the corridor of Station Meridian. The lights above her head made a soft humming sound. She could hear music and laughter coming from the grand hall behind her, where the Galactic Diplomatic Summit was happening. She did not want to go back there. The Corvani were a proud species. They stood tall, with skin the color of pale moonlight, and large eyes that glowed soft purple. But the most important thing about them was their wings. Beautiful, powerful wings that spread wide like sheets of silk. Wings that let them soar through the skies of their home world. Velthira had wings too. But her left wing was small and twisted. It had been that way since the day she was born. It hung against her back like a broken promise, unable to open fully, unable to carry her into the sky. Among her people, this made her less than nothing. In Corvani culture, flight was everything. To fly was to be blessed by the gods. To fly was to have worth. Those who could not fly were considered cursed. They were hidden away. They were not spoken of in polite company. They were a source of shame for their families. Velthira was 217 years old. In all that time, she had learned one lesson very well. She was a mistake that her family had to tolerate. Her father, the emperor, had sent her to this summit only because tradition demanded that all royal children attend. Her 3 siblings were inside the grand hall right now, standing tall and proud, their perfect wings folded elegantly behind them. They spoke with ambassadors and generals. They smiled for the cameras. They represented the glory of the Corvani Empire. Velthira's job was to stay quiet, stay invisible, and stay out of the way. She had tried. For 3 days, she had tried. She had stood in corners. She had kept her head down. She had pretended not to hear the whispers. Is that the broken one? How sad. Such a waste. Why did they even bring her? Tonight, she could not take it anymore. A delegate from the Vrix consortium had looked at her wing and laughed. Not quietly. Not behind his hand. He had laughed openly, showing all his teeth. And his companions had laughed with him. Her brother Corathen, the crown prince, had seen the whole thing. He had done nothing. He had simply looked away, as if she did not exist. So Velthira had walked out. Now she moved through the corridors of Station Meridian, not knowing where she was going. She just wanted to find somewhere quiet. Somewhere she could be alone. Somewhere she could exist without being reminded of everything she was not. The station was huge. It was built by a species called the Meridians, who had disappeared long ago. Now it served as neutral ground for all the species of the galaxy to meet and talk. There were thousands of rooms here, meeting halls, guest quarters, observation decks, gardens, libraries. Velthira turned down one corridor, then another. She was lost, but she did not care. Lost was better than found. She stopped in front of a door that looked different from the others. It was older, with scratches and marks on its surface. There was no official sign on it. It looked forgotten. Perfect, she thought. A forgotten room for a forgotten princess. She pressed the control panel, and the door slid open. The room inside was not empty. Velthira froze. Her heart, she had too, like all Corvani, began to beat faster. The room was small and cluttered in a way she had never seen before. There were strange objects everywhere. Flat, rectangular things made of paper, stacked in piles. A wooden instrument with strings, green plants growing in clay pots. Colorful fabric on the walls. The air smelled different here, warm and earthy, and somehow alive. In the middle of this chaos sat a creature she recognized from the summit briefings. A human. He was sitting in a worn chair, holding one of those paper objects, a book. She remembered they were called. He was not young but not old either, with dark hair that was turning gray at the sides and warm brown skin. He wore simple clothes, not the fancy robes of a diplomat. His eyes were dark and calm. When the door opened, he looked up. Velthira waited for what always came next. The stare at her wing, the flash of pity or disgust in his eyes, the awkward silence as he tried to figure out how to make her leave without being rude. But the human just blinked. His eyes moved over her face, not her wing. He looked at her the way one might look at any unexpected visitor. "Oh, hey," he said. His voice was calm and friendly. "Rough night?" Velthira did not understand the question. I am sorry. I did not mean to intrude. I thought this room was empty." "It usually is," the human said. He did not stand up. He did not bow. He did not seem nervous or afraid. Even though she was Corvani royalty, and he was clearly not anyone important. "I'm just borrowing it. Station gave it to me because my regular quarters have a ventilation problem." He smiled a little. "I'm supposed to fix it, but I haven't gotten around to it yet." "You are a maintenance worker?" Velthira asked. "Engineer," he said. "But yeah, basically, I fix things that break." He set down his book and looked at her with simple curiosity. "There's tea if you want some." "Just boiled the kettle." Tea. She knew this word. It was a human drink. She had read about it in her cultural briefings. "I should go," she said. "I did not mean to disturb you." She turned to leave. "You don't have to," the human said. Velthira stopped. She turned back, not sure she had heard correctly. "What?" The human shrugged. It was such a casual gesture. So simple. "You look like you're having a bad night, and I've got more tea than I can drink alone." He gestured to a second chair, older and patched with tape. "Stay as long as you need. No one bothers me here. They won't bother you either." Velthira stood very still. In 217 years of life, no one had ever asked her to stay. Not once. She had always been the one people wanted to leave, to disappear, to stop existing in their presence. And here was this human, this small, wingless, short-lived creature offering her a chair and a cup of tea like it was the most natural thing in the world. "I am Princess Velthira of the Corvani Empire," she said. She did not know why she said it. Perhaps to warn him, perhaps to give him a chance to change his mind. The human nodded. "Marcus Chen. Maintenance engineer. Nice to meet you." He stood and walked to a small heating unit, where a metal container was steaming. "How do you take your tea?" "I've got honey if you like sweet things." He had not reacted to her title at all. He had not bowed. He had not become nervous or formal. He simply asked how she liked her tea. Velthira felt something strange happening in her chest. A warmth she did not recognize. "I do not know," she said honestly. "I have never had tea before." Marcus Chen smiled. It was a kind smile, the sort that reached his eyes. "Then let's find out together," he said. "Sit down, Your Highness. You look like you've been standing for way too long." And for the first time in 217 years, Princess Velthira of the Corvani Empire sat down in a room where someone actually wanted her to be there. Outside, the summit continued. Empires made deals. Her siblings smiled for cameras. The galaxy turned, vast and cold and uncaring. But in that small, forgotten room, a human poured tea for a broken princess, and the universe became just a little bit smaller, just a little bit warmer, just a little bit more like home. Velthira returned the next night. She told herself it was just curiosity. She told herself she only wanted to try the tea again. She told herself many things. But the truth was simpler than that. She wanted to feel seen again. Marcus was there, just like before. He was sitting in his old chair, reading a different book. When she entered, he looked up and smiled like he had been expecting her. "Jasmine tonight," he said, holding up a small packet. "Lighter than yesterday. I think you'll like it." And she did. They sat together in comfortable silence for a while. Marcus read his book. Velthira held her warm cup and looked around the room at all the strange human objects. She had so many questions. "What is that?" she asked, pointing at the wooden instrument with strings. "Guitar," Marcus said. "It makes music. I can play a little, but I'm not very good." "And those?" She pointed at the paper rectangles stacked everywhere. "Books, stories, mostly, some philosophy, some poetry." He picked one up and showed her. "Humans used to write everything on paper before we had screens. Some of us still like the old way. Why? Marcus thought about this. There's something different about holding a story in your hands. The weight of it. The smell of the pages. It feels more real somehow. Creages, Velthira did not fully understand, but she liked the way he talked about these things. Like they mattered. Like small things could be important. Will you teach me? She asked. Marcus looked surprised. To read human books? To understand, she said. All of this. Your people. Your ways. He smiled that warm smile again. Sure. But only if you teach me something about yours. So they made a deal. Every night, after the summit events were finished, Velthira would slip away to Marcus's forgotten room. He taught her to play chess, a human strategy game with small carved pieces. She taught him Corvani meditation, the art of breathing with two hearts at once. He read her human poetry, strange and beautiful words about love and loss and hope. She told him about the mountains of her homeworld, where the wind sang through crystal caves. They never talked about her wing. Marcus never looked at it with pity. He never asked what was wrong with it. He never treated her like she was broken. To him, she was simply Velthira. A person. A friend. It was the strangest feeling she had ever known. One night, about 2 weeks into their friendship, Velthira asked him a question that had been bothering her. Why are you here, Marcus Chen? What do you mean? You are clearly intelligent. You read philosophy. You understand complex ideas. But you fix machines for a living. Why? Marcus was quiet for a moment. He set down his teacup and looked at his hands. I wasn't always a maintenance engineer, he said finally. I used to be something else. Something bigger. But I made choices. Some good, some bad. And I ended up here. He shrugged. I like it actually. Fixing things is honest work. When something is broken, I make it work again. There's no politics in that. No lies. Just problems and solutions. Velthira sensed there was more to the story. But she did not push. Everyone had things they were not ready to share. I think I understand, she said. Sometimes, simple is better. Sometimes it is, Marcus agreed. But the galaxy was not simple, and it would not leave them alone. Crown Prince Korathen was not a patient man. He was tall, even for a Corvani. His wings were magnificent, wide and powerful, the color of deep ocean water. He was the perfect sun, the perfect air, the perfect symbol of Corvani greatness, and he was watching his sister very carefully. For the first week of the summit, Velthira had behaved as expected. She had stayed quiet. She had stayed invisible. She had stayed out of the way. But then, something changed. She started disappearing in the evenings. At first, Korathen did not care. What did it matter where the broken one went? But then he noticed something else. She was different. She walked with her head a little higher. She spoke with a little more confidence. The constant sadness in her eyes was fading. This bothered him. Velthira was supposed to be broken. That was her role. That was her purpose. A broken princess made the perfect ones look even better. If she started believing she had worth, it would upset the natural order of things. Korathen sent one of his servants to follow her. The report came back quickly. The princess was spending her evenings with a human, a maintenance worker, a nobody. Korathen felt his blood turn cold with anger. That night, Velthira was walking to Marcus's room when a figure stepped out of the shadows. Her brother. Korathen, she said, stopping suddenly. Her hearts began to race with fear. The crown prince looked at her with cold eyes. Where are you going, sister? Nowhere. I was just... Do not lie to me. His voice was sharp like breaking glass. I know about the human. I know you have been spending time with him, every night. Like some common servant girl chasing after a pet. Velthira felt her face grow hot with shame and anger. He is my friend. Friend? Korathen laughed. But there was no warmth in it. You do not have friends, Velthira. You are a princess of the Corvani Empire. You have duties. You have responsibilities. You have a role to play. What role? She asked, and her voice trembled. To stand in corners? To be invisible? To remind everyone how perfect you are by being imperfect myself? Korathan moved closer. He was so much taller than her. So much stronger. His perfect wings spread slightly, a display of dominance. You exist because Father allows you to exist, he said quietly. Do not forget that. Do not forget what happens to broken things that become inconvenient. The threat hung in the air between them. Velthira felt tears forming in her eyes. But she refused to let them fall. She had spent 200 years crying in the dark. She would not cry in front of him. What do you want? She whispered. End this foolishness with the human, Korathan said. Go back to your quarters. Stay there. Do not embarrass this family any further. And if I refuse? Korathan smiled. It was a terrible smile. The human works in maintenance, yes? Dangerous job. So many things can go wrong. Electrical failures, gas leaks, accidents. He leaned closer. It would be such a tragedy if something happened to your little friend. Velthira's blood turned to ice. You would not dare. Try me, sister. I have killed for less. He turned and walked away, his footsteps echoing in the empty corridor. Velthira stood there, frozen, her whole body shaking. She thought about Marcus, his kind smile, his warm tea, the way he looked at her like she was worth something. And she thought about what her brother would do to him if she did not obey. The choice was clear. The choice was impossible. She walked slowly back to her quarters. She did not go to Marcus that night. Or the next night. Or the night after that. She ignored his messages. She deleted his concerned notes. She told herself this was mercy. She told herself she was protecting him, but deep in her two hearts, something was breaking. And far away, in his forgotten room, Marcus Chen sat alone, wondering what he had done wrong. Marcus Chen was not a fool. He had lived long enough to know when something was wrong. Velthira had not visited him in 5 days. She had not answered his messages. She had not even looked at him when they passed each other in the corridors of the station. Something had happened. Something bad. Most people would have accepted the silence. Most people would have assumed the princess had grown bored of her little human friend. Most people would have moved on with their lives. But Marcus was human. And humans, as the galaxy was slowly learning, did not give up on their friends. On the 6th day, he started asking questions. He began with the other maintenance workers. They knew everything that happened on the station because they went everywhere. They fixed things in every room, every corridor, every secret corner. They heard conversations. They noticed patterns. The Corvani princess, said old Miguel, who had worked on the station for 30 years. I've seen her. She looks sad, that one. Like she's carrying something heavy. Have you noticed anything strange? Anyone following her? Watching her? Miguel thought about it. The crown prince has been asking about her. One of his servants was snooping around this section last week. Wanted to know who worked here. Who lived here. He gave Marcus a careful look. Why are you asking? Just curious, Marcus said. But he was not just curious. He was worried. Marcus did something he had not done in years. He used his old skills. Before he was a maintenance engineer, Marcus Chen had been something else. Something he did not talk about. Something he had left behind. He had been an investigator for Earth's intelligence division. He had uncovered secrets. He had exposed criminals. He had brought down corrupt politicians and corporate villains. He had been very, very good at finding the truth. Then he had found a truth that powerful people wanted to stay hidden. They had destroyed his career. They had taken everything from him. He had fled to the edges of space, found work fixing machines, and tried to forget the man he used to be. But some skills never truly fade. Marcus started digging into the Corvani delegation. He accessed public records. He read diplomatic files. He talked to servants and staff members from other delegations. Piece by piece, he built a picture of Velthira's life. What he found made his stomach turn. The Corvani did not treat their disabled citizens well. Those born with defects were considered cursed. They were hidden away, kept out of public view, denied education and opportunity. Many disappeared entirely, sent to remote facilities where they lived and died in silence. Velthira had survived only because she was royal, but survival was not the same as living. Marcus learned about the isolation, the constant insults, the way her own family treated her like a shameful secret. He learned that she had never been allowed to study what she wanted, go where she wanted, or choose anything for herself. And then he learned about the engagement. Velthira was promised to someone, a military commander from a species called the Droth. They were a brutal people, warriors who valued strength above all else. The marriage was political, a way to seal an alliance between the Corvani Empire and the Droth Confederation. The Droth commander was named Vrek. Marcus found images of him. He was massive, covered in armored scales, with teeth like broken knives. He had 4 wives already. 3 of them had died under mysterious circumstances. Velthira was going to be his 5th. Marcus sat alone in his room, staring at the information on his screen. His hands were shaking, not with fear, with anger. She was not just unhappy. She was being sold, traded like property, sent to a monster who would probably destroy her. And she had stopped visiting him because someone had threatened her. Someone had made her afraid. He was certain of it now. Marcus made a decision. He was just a maintenance engineer. He had no power. He had no influence. He had no army or wealth or political connections. But he had something else. He had knowledge. He had skills. And he had something the Corvani apparently did not understand. He gave a damn. The next morning, Marcus walked into the Galactic Council's administrative office. He asked to speak with someone about the Sapient Rights Accords, a set of laws that protected individuals from being traded against their will, even by their own governments. The clerk looked at him with confusion. You want to file a humanitarian complaint? Against whom? The Corvani Empire, Marcus said calmly. Specifically regarding the treatment of Princess Velthira. The clerk's eyes went wide. Sir, that's a major diplomatic power. Are you sure you want to? I'm sure. The paperwork took hours. Marcus filled out every form. He provided every piece of evidence he had gathered. He cited every relevant law and regulation. By the time he was finished, the sun had set outside the station's observation windows, but he was not done yet. That evening, the Corvani delegation was hosting a reception in the Grand Hall. All the important people would be there. Ambassadors, generals, royalty. Marcus put on the only nice clothes he owned, a simple dark suit he had not worn in years. He walked into the Grand Hall like he belonged there. The crowd was glittering and beautiful. Hundreds of beings from dozens of species, all dressed in their finest. Music played. Servants moved through the crowd with drinks and food. Marcus spotted Velthira almost immediately. She was standing in a corner, as always. Her damaged wing was hidden under a carefully draped cloak. Her eyes were empty. Her face was blank. She looked like someone who had given up on everything. Crown Prince Korathan stood nearby, watching her with cold satisfaction. Marcus walked straight toward them. People started to notice. A human, clearly not a diplomat, moving through the crowd with purpose. Whispers spread like ripples in water. Korathan saw him coming. His eyes narrowed with recognition and anger. Marcus stopped directly in front of Velthira. She looked up, and her eyes went wide with shock and fear. Marcus, she whispered. What are you doing? You cannot be here. You have to leave. No, Marcus said. His voice was calm but firm, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. Princess Velthira, you have a right to speak for yourself, and I am not leaving until someone lets you. The music stopped. The entire hall went silent. Korathan stepped forward, his hand moving toward the ceremonial blade at his belt. How dare you, human? Do you know who I am? Do you know what I can do to you? I know exactly who you are, Marcus said. He did not step back. He did not look away. And I know exactly what you've been doing to your sister. The isolation, The threats. The forced engagement to a man who has already killed 3 wives. He raised his voice so everyone could hear. I have filed a formal complaint with the Galactic Council under Section 7 of the Sapient Rights Accords. This princess is being sold against her will, and I am asking this assembly to witness her right to speak. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Corathen's face twisted with rage. You will die for this, human. Maybe, Marcus said. But not before she speaks. He turned to Velthira. Her eyes were filled with tears. Her hands were shaking. 200 years of silence pressed down on her like a mountain. Velthira, Marcus said gently. You don't have to be afraid anymore. Whatever happens next, I'm not leaving. Tell them the truth. Tell them who you really are. The whole galaxy was watching, and Velthira had to choose. The Grand Hall was completely silent. Hundreds of beings from across the galaxy stood frozen, watching. Ambassadors, generals, kings and queens, all of them staring at the small human who had dared to challenge the Corvani Empire. Velthira felt like she could not breathe. Her brother Corathen stood just a few steps away, his hand on his ceremonial blade. His eyes burned with a cold fire. She knew that look. She had seen it before. Right before he hurt someone, and Marcus stood in front of her. This simple human. This maintenance engineer. This man who had offered her tea and taught her chess, and never once looked at her wing with pity. He was going to die because of her. Velthira, Marcus said softly. It's okay. Whatever you decide, I'm here. She looked at him. Really looked at him. He was not tall. He was not strong. He had no wings, no claws, no natural weapons. By Corvani standards, he was weak and fragile and completely insignificant. But he was standing here, for her, against an empire. Why? The question burned in her mind. Why would anyone risk their life for her? She was broken. She was worthless. She was nothing, except Marcus had never treated her like nothing. From the very first moment, he had treated her like someone worth knowing, someone worth caring about, someone worth saving. Maybe he was right. Maybe she was worth something after all. Velthira felt something shift inside her. A door that had been locked for 200 years slowly began to open. Sister. Corathen's voice cut through her thoughts like a knife. Do not embarrass yourself further. Come with me now. And this human will receive a quick death. Resist, and I will make him suffer. You will not touch him, Velthira said. The words came out before she could stop them. Her voice was quiet, but steady. Corathen's eyes widened with surprise. She had never spoken back to him. Not once in 200 years. What did you say? He asked. Velthira stepped forward. Her legs were shaking, but she did not stop. She moved to stand beside Marcus, shoulder to shoulder. I said you will not touch him, she repeated. Louder this time. He is my friend, and I will not let you hurt him. Corathen laughed. It was an ugly sound. You? Stop me? Little broken bird. What exactly do you think you can do? I can speak, Velthira said. She turned to face the crowd. All those watching eyes. All those judging faces. For her whole life, she had hidden from them. She had stayed in corners. She had kept her head down. She had been silent. No more. My name is Velthira of the Corvani Empire, she said. Her voice carried across the silent hall. I am the 4th child of Emperor Vorketh. I was born with a damaged wing. And for 217 years, my family has treated me as a curse. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Velthira kept going. I was not allowed to attend school with my siblings. I was not allowed to learn to fight or to fly. I was kept hidden in back rooms and forgotten corridors. When guests came to the palace, I was locked in my chambers so no one would see me. She felt tears forming in her eyes, but she did not stop them. Let them fall. Let everyone see. When I was young, I asked my mother why I could not play with the other children. Do you know what she said? She said that broken things should not be seen. She said I should be grateful I was allowed to live at all. The crowd was completely silent now. Even Corathen had stopped moving, his face frozen with shock. 3 months ago, my father told me I was to be married, not to someone I chose, not to someone I loved, to Commander Vrek of the Droth Confederation. Velthira's voice cracked, but she forced herself to continue. Vrek has had 4 wives. 3 of them are dead. Everyone knows he killed them. Everyone knows, and no one cares. She turned to look at her brother. My family sold me to a murderer because I am not worth keeping. Because a trade alliance is more valuable than my life. Corathen found his voice. You are speaking lies. Guards, take her. I am speaking the truth, Velthira shouted. Her voice echoed through the hall like thunder. And everyone in this room knows it. Everyone in this room has seen how the Corvani treat those who are different. You hide us. You silence us. You sell us. And you call it tradition. You call it honor. You call it the natural order. She spread her arms wide, letting her cloak fall away. Her damaged wing was visible now, small and twisted and imperfect. She did not try to hide it. Look at me, she said. This is what you hate. This is what you fear. A wing that does not work. A body that is not perfect. But I am still here. I am still alive. And I am done being invisible. The silence stretched on. Then, slowly, a sound began. Clapping. It came from the back of the hall, a single person clapping. Then another. Then another. Velthira turned to look. A human woman was walking through the crowd. She was older, with gray hair and a face full of wisdom and strength. She wore the formal robes of Earth's diplomatic corps. Director Amara Okonkwo, the human ambassador. Well-spoken, princess, Director Okonkwo said. She reached the front of the crowd and stood beside Velthira and Marcus. The Galactic Council has received a formal complaint regarding your situation. As representative of Earth, I am invoking Section 7 of the Sapient Rights Accords. I call for an emergency vote to grant Princess Velthira protected status. Corathen stepped forward, his face red with anger. You cannot do this. She is Corvani property. Property? Director Okonkwo's voice was cold and sharp. Did you just call a sapient being property? In front of this entire assembly? More whispers. Corathen realized his mistake, but it was too late. The words were already spoken. The Corvani Empire will not tolerate this interference, he said. If you proceed with this vote, there will be consequences. Economic consequences. Military consequences. Director Okonkwo smiled. It was not a friendly smile. The Corvani may have larger ships, she said. But humans have longer memories. We remember what it costs to ignore cruelty for convenience. We remember because we have made that mistake ourselves, many times, and we have sworn never to make it again. She turned to the assembly. I call for the vote. All in favor of granting Princess Velthira protected status, raise your hand or equivalent appendage. 1 hand went up, then 10, then 50. Species who had their own histories of oppression. Species who had watched humans claw their way into the galaxy and wondered what made them so stubborn. Species who had stayed silent for too long and finally found the courage to speak. The vote passed. Velthira was free. She felt her legs give way. Marcus caught her before she could fall. Holding her steady with gentle hands. You did it, he whispered. You were amazing. Velthira looked at him through her tears. I could not have done it without you. But across the hall, Crown Prince Corathen was watching them. His face was calm now. Too calm. And in his eyes, there was a promise. This was not over. 6 months had passed since that night in the Grand Hall. Velthira stood at the window of her small apartment on Station Meridian, watching the stars turn slowly outside. She was no longer a princess. She had given up her title, her wealth, her family name. The Corvani Empire had disowned her completely. She had never been happier. Her apartment was simple, just 2 rooms with basic furniture. But it was hers. She had chosen it herself. She had decorated it with things she loved, human books that Marcus had given her, plants from different worlds, colorful fabrics she had found in the station market. On her desk sat a small certificate. It said she was now an official cultural liaison for Station Meridian. Her job was to help refugees, beings from all species who had fled their homes and needed help starting new lives. She was good at it. She understood what it meant to feel lost. She understood what it meant to feel worthless. And she understood what it meant to find hope again. A knock came at her door. "Come in," she called. Marcus entered, carrying 2 cups of tea. Jasmine, her favorite. He smiled that warm smile she had come to love so much. "Long day?" he asked, handing her a cup. "A good day," she said. "A family from the VRIX consortium arrived this morning. 3 children. They escaped a war zone. The youngest one reminded me of myself, so scared, so sure that no one wanted her." Velthira smiled. "I told her that sometimes the wrong door leads to the right place." Marcus sat down across from her. "Did she understand?" "Not yet, but she will." They drank their tea in comfortable silence. Outside, ships moved through the darkness, traders, diplomats, travelers from 1,000 worlds. The galaxy continued its endless dance. But the galaxy had not forgotten what happened 6 months ago. The Corvani Empire had cut all ties with Station Meridian. Trade routes were closed. Supplies were limited. Other species whispered that the station had made a powerful enemy. And Crown Prince Corathen had not forgiven. 3 assassination attempts had been made on Velthira's life. The first was poison in her food. The second was a bomb in her office. The third was a hired killer who had gotten within 10 feet of her before station security stopped him. Each time, they had survived. Each time, the threat grew closer. "The council met today," Marcus said quietly. "Some of them are talking about sending you away. They think you're too dangerous to keep here." Velthira nodded. She had expected this. "And what do you think?" And Marcus looked at her with steady eyes. "I think you belong wherever you choose to belong. And I think anyone who tries to make you leave will have to go through me first." "Marcus." Velthira set down her cup. "You have already risked so much. Your job, your safety, your life. Why do you keep doing this?" It was the question she had asked before, months ago, but she needed to hear the answer again. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke. "When I was young, I read a story about a man who found an injured bird. Everyone told him to leave it alone. They said it was too broken to save. They said it would only bring him trouble, but he took care of it anyway. He fed it. He protected it. And one day, it flew again." Marcus smiled softly. The story was not really about the bird. It was about the man. It was about what we become when we choose to care about something beyond ourselves. He reached out and took her hand. His touch was warm and gentle. "You walked into my room looking like you were carrying the weight of 1,000 worlds. And something in me knew that I could not look away. Not because you needed saving, but because you deserved to know that someone saw you, really saw you." He squeezed her hand. "That's why I do it. Because you matter. Because kindness matters. Because the galaxy is cold and dark and sometimes cruel, and the only thing that makes it bearable is when we choose to care about each other." Velthira felt tears rolling down her face. But they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of something else. Something she had never felt before. "I do not know what to call this feeling," she whispered. "You don't have to call it anything," Marcus said. "You just have to let it be." The next morning, something unexpected happened. A ship arrived at Station Meridian. It was not a Corvani ship. It was not an assassin. It was a small transport vessel, carrying refugees, dozens of them, from many different species. They had come because of Velthira. Word had spread across the galaxy about the broken princess who had stood up against her empire. Her story had traveled from world to world, inspiring others who had been told they were worthless. They came with damaged bodies and wounded hearts. They came with disabilities that their cultures considered shameful. They came because they had heard that there was a place where someone would ask them to stay. Velthira met them at the docking bay. She looked at their faces, scared, hopeful, uncertain. She remembered how she had felt that first night, standing in Marcus's doorway. "Welcome," she said, her voice strong and clear. "You have traveled far. You have been told many lies about your worth. But I want you to know something." She spread her arms wide, letting her damaged wing show. "You are not broken. You are not worthless. You are not alone. And as long as I am here, you will always have a place to belong." The refugees looked at her. Some of them cried. Some of them smiled. All of them understood. That evening, Velthira returned to Marcus's room. The same forgotten room where everything had begun. He was there, reading a book, just like the first time. "Room for one more?" she asked. Marcus looked up and smiled. "Always." She sat down beside him, not across from him like before. Beside him, close enough to feel his warmth. "I have been thinking," she said, "about what you told me. About the bird that learned to fly again. And I do not think the story is finished yet." She looked at him. "I think the bird and the man have more adventures ahead of them. I think they are going to change the galaxy together." Marcus laughed softly. "That sounds like a good story." "It will be," Velthira said, "because it is ours." Outside, the stars continued their eternal dance. Empires rose and fell. Wars began and ended. The galaxy remained vast and cold and full of danger, but in one small room on Station Meridian, two unlikely friends sat together, drinking tea and dreaming of tomorrow. And across the galaxy, beings who had been forgotten, beings who had been broken, beings who had been told they did not matter, they lifted their heads and began to hope, because they had heard the story of a human who asked a stranger to stay, the story of a princess who found her voice, the story that proved the simplest truth in all the universe: kindness changes everything. The end.